Okay, so I just wanted to go over an updated making to the numerical input change command. For those of you that don't know, that's the command you run when you run up here, the absolute or relative up here. There is one little bug that I'm still trying to figure out, but it's a bug that's actually in Maya already, so I'm not sure what to do other than just let people know about it. So anyway, the reason I wrote this script in the first place was because there were some issues with the numerical input from the last update. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reset all these pivots on these cubes here. And if you don't know, if I go in here and say I'm in absolute mode and say I only type in y, a 0, it's going to drop all these objects down to 0. What doesn't work is if I'm in pivot mode and I do the same thing, what it actually does is move all the pivots to 0 in y, but then also uses the x and z value of the last selected object. So if I go back in here and carefully select these guys and do that same thing, you can see it in action. Now all my pivots are now matching the z and x of this last object here, and the y's have all dropped down. So obviously that was an issue. It used to work and then it broke. I don't know. Now the other issue that recently I was made aware of that I did not know about was if you're doing something like this and you want to say rotate from this new pivot location, and again I'm not sorry, I recorded this a few times. If I rotate object center off, I want to rotate from this position like this. If I go in here and say type in 15 into the rotate Z, it's actually going to rotate them locally on their own pivots. Let's try it in relative. Same thing. It's going to rotate them from their own pivots, which is incorrect. Same thing for scale. So say I want to scale these guys in X. I'm going to hit 0, and they're just going to scale in their own original locations. So what I did is I made a replacement for that script. I hunted it down and made some fixes to it. So what I'm going to do is just drag that in here. And currently I have it in my 2023 pref scripts, so it'll stay there next time I load Maya. But for this demo, I'm just dragging it and sourcing it that way. So the first thing I want to look at is that pivot issue. So if I have all my objects here selected, and in this case, let's say we want to put all their pivots at 0x, but leave the others. It is going to drop everything, but if I hit D, I'm in relative. Let's go to absolute mode. There we go. Now I'll select all these guys, hit D, and you know they're all pivots have been moved to X, but it kept their respective Y and Z axes, which is what we wanted. Now let's take a look at the movement in, say, I'm going to bring this object here, the manipulator like that. I'll hit E for rotate tool. I want to rotate from this position here. I'm going to go, and that's the Z, and I'll type in, say, 15. And as you can see, I am now rotating from where I want to be. If I change to the free object, rotate object center, and I type in 15, I'm going to rotate from the object center as expected. I'll go back to rotate object, turn that off, and the pivot bounces back. Now I'll check it out in the scale. Same thing, say I want to rotate or scale in, what is that? Sorry, X. I'm going to hit 0 here, and you can see it all zeroes out. And what's cool about that is, like, let's say I have, a big sphere. Come on. And what I'll do is I'll grab a whole bunch of verts over here. And, that walk tool. This is vanilla Maya. How do I get out of walk tool? I haven't set any of my, oh my god. I haven't set any of my custom scripts yet. I'm going to have to select these, press D. Where's my manipulators? There we go. I'm going to snap align it to this face here, or edge. And what I want to have happen is that sort of kind of scaling. Actually, let's select a few more and then reset that. And what I'll do is I'll type in 0 in X, and you can see it actually scales correctly along that axis. Let's try rotate. Let's say we want to rotate around this axis. And let's say I'll do 15, 15, 15, 15. And you can see I'm rotating around the correct axis. If I change that axis, say like that, of course I'm destroying my object, but oh well. And I'll rotate now in X in that direction. It's going to use that manipulator. And again, I have rotate object center off, and scale object center off. Now the only thing I found that was a little bit of a pain is that when I do this, it leaves some memory in the move tool. So what I'm going to do is open up, the rotate and scale tools. So if I go here and select all these components again and hit D, move the root up there, and you see it's actually 0, 0, 0 my axis. But if you look at my tool and I go in here and run, say, that scale again, I'm actually going to get something kind of weird. And the reason for that is it didn't get rid of this information in my scale tool. If I go to my scale tool and I go down to axis, custom, it's still set to that original custom. I want to go ahead and hit reset. It'll reset both the position and the rotation, which is a little bit of a bummer. But oh look, it looks like it actually kept the position, but maybe position's back to 0. So now when I run it, it's going to actually scale it correctly. I'm not exactly sure how to fix that one because I don't want to automatically reset those pivot locations. I would imagine, if you watch what happens, say I rotate this and rotate this and rotate this, and then I get out of that tool and I go back in and reselect these guys and hit D, you see that my pivot's now at 0. However, my rotations are still in there for some reason. I'm going to go in here and, well, before I reset it, let me show you this. If I just nudge it, you can see I can get it back to where it should be. So there should be something that just sets it back to 0. I don't know why it doesn't do it automatically. But I'm going to go in here and say reset, and now it's reset both again, position and rotation. And I don't know where the manipulator goes, but if I just tap D twice, I get it back to where I want. Now I can hit R. Yes, these are a lot of steps, but it gives me back to my tool the way it should work. My suggestion is, take this reset button and, maybe add it to the reset that's already built in. One of the things also, just so you know, that if you go in here and say move this guy out like that, and I hit D, if I now go hit reset pivot, my pivot shouldn't move. I haven't moved the pivots, but check what happens with this one that I changed. So the thing to know about reset is it's actually a center pivot, not reset pivot. If you open up your channel box, channel control, and if I go to rotate axis, and rotate pivot translate, and rotate pivots, I'm going to grab all these guys. I'm also going to grab all the scales and move those over. And let's look at our object here. So you'll see that I actually have values in the rotate pivot X, Y, and Z. If I select, say, I can do the same thing here. One of these other objects, move those over. You see that they're all 0. So I would actually anticipate that, or expect that when I hit reset on a pivot, it should actually reset it, not center it. But if I go in here and type in 0, I now have that pivot back to the original position of actually being reset. I'm going to keep working on this one. Maybe I'll add a menu that'll reset your pivots controls on your translate and rotates, scales and rotates. I'm not sure yet, but I will make the script available. I'll keep it as a separate script. Incidentally, there were no changes from the 2020 script to the 2023 script. So you can use either or, and they will still work. All right, well, I hope that's helpful.